In a peaceful Viking village, the terrible Odin has come to take away the greatest warriors the Vikings can produce. But when the odd Ashildir steps in to defend the Viking honor, it's up to the Doctor and Clara to teach the Viking leftovers how to fight. Good thing the Doctor finally figured out where his face was from. Get ready for our review today in the Vortex.
Broadcast amplitude at maximum capacity. Transmitting through time and space in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Vortex.
Voices from the Vortex Reviews, Series 9, Episode 5, The Girl Who Died. Hey!
Huzzah, everyone!
Hello! Huzzah!
Welcome to the show.
Well, here we are. Episode 5? 5 episodes in now?
Yeah.
Got a pretty good idea of how this series or this season is unfolding.
Yeah, we're seeing some through lines. We're seeing some cool little foreshadowing and things like that. I enjoyed it.
Foreshadowing, back shadowing, up and down shadowing, left or right shadowing. We're seeing a lot of it.
Yep. So, Girl Who Died. All around an amazing episode.
A very good episode. A little misleading title. She didn't die.
I mean, she did, but then she's not dead.
She really didn't. I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm not a doctor, but I think technically, she died for like a minute or two.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on a podcast. And listen, she died.
Yeah.
No, it's a really fun, self-contained story.
Yes.
That really gives us an idea of who the Doctor is today, and who he is this season, and then introduces us obviously to this mystery character that he finds it in his heart to break the rules. And, man, every time he breaks the rules, he really knows how to break them.
He really does. I mean, it's like he's just ready to break the rules constantly, but he has to restrain himself.
Yeah. Well, and that was a great little speech he gives with Clara about, she asks him, she says, I don't know what the rules are, and he tells her that, we can do anything we want, but, we have to tread lightly as time travelers.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that.
Yeah.
It's such a good explanation. There are no real rules as much as there just are guidelines.
Right.
How do you approach time travel? And that's I think that's great.
Right off the bat, and as the theme was playing, my mouth was still agape at the screen. These sonic sunglasses are broken in two. And I was like, what? No. Luckily, I think they're still going to be around. I think he fixes them. I believe they're in the next episode still. If the trailer is to be believed. But I was just shocked. I was like, is this the end for the sonic sunglasses? So soon?
Is this the end? And it's literally the only character that matters this season. Sonic sunglasses.
Yes, it's all anyone's talking about.
I was a little distraught they broke it so fast. However, I love that they turned it from Sonic sunglasses into Sonic eye patch.
Yes. It worked.
That's just the best.
It worked well. So with the villain had the eye patch too, so it was like this right. Parallel almost, which was nice.
It was eye patch to eye. It was an eye patch off. Yar. I loved it was Vikings. We don't see enough Vikings in Doctor Who.
No.
I loved Odin. Oh my god, Odin. Yeah, sure. Like, he had the most impeccable timing. The Doctor trying to convince everyone, I am Odin. I am upset with you. Bah ha ha. Look at me and my yo-yo. And then just Odin just popping up and really making the Doctor feel a little sheepish. He really does make it up as he goes along.
Yeah, that was great. That was really great.
What did you think of the Mire?
I thought they were okay. You know, I thought they were creepy looking for sure. When we finally got to see what they looked like. But, you know, disappointed. Again, just disappointed they weren't Jadoon. That's what I'm most disappointed at. But, you know, they can't all be Jadoon.
I was a little let down by them. As far as Doctor Who villains go, they were... there was nothing to them.
Right.
I mean, you know, they don't all have to be scary. They don't all have to be impressive. Sometimes you just want goofballs like the Jadoon. The Jadoon aren't scary. They're kind of stupid.
Right.
I don't know. I expected more out of the Mire, and the way the Doctor went on about them, I really expected them to be like a big, like the warship after warship would show up or something. That'd be a big threat, but apparently not.
Nope. And I think a lot of it was just the main villain did all the talking, and the main one, and then the rest of them just stood there. They were all just sort of mindless drones, which is not as fun as, say, the Centaurans, who they all speak, right. And they all have this thirst for battle and things like that. So
right. Yeah, it's just as far as New Who villains go, they will fall in the same category as forgettable villains. You know, they are as forgettable as the Toclafane. They are, which were far creepier.
Mm-hmm.
They're as forgettable, but they're not. You know, New Who has some really great alien monsters and species that they've introduced. The Ood is very famous, and I think for New Who, they're creepy and unique, and they have something about them that just makes them more than just villains. They're not monsters. You know, they're very memorable. Where it's to people like the Mire, it's like, okay, all right. We had to have something here, standing here physically, for the Doctor to,
yeah, you know,
talk to. You know, another thing I really liked, this episode felt like the Doctor was the Doctor. You know, last season we've gone on about it almost too much. Last season he just wasn't the Doctor, and this season much more so. I felt like we were hitting those moments. But this is, you know, in this episode he hits it when he finally decides that he's going to defy time and save this girl who's dead, the girl who died, as it turns out. And like, that felt like Doctor Who. That felt like David Tennant. That felt like Matt Smith.
Mm-hmm.
That even felt like Eccleston. I felt for a moment there, I was like, yes, here we go. We're finally back. It took us a season and a half, and now we're at the Doctor, you know? I don't know how you felt, but I really liked this episode because of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what Capaldi has done, and even in Series 8 has done fairly well, is, you know, after 50 years of this character, there's almost a thought of like, well, how much more can we learn about this guy? And like, how much, right. What else can he be going through? And I think Stephen Moffat and Capaldi, just as in the acting sense, had done a really good job of giving us more, like, to think about. Like, yeah, like, what else would this character be going through? What kind of thoughts would he be having that maybe he hasn't had yet, or that it's something that he's dealing with, but he's never actually, like, dealt with it yet? And I feel like this episode is like an example of that. It's one of those things. There's many things that go with it, but it's the face, which we'll talk about later, but also, you know, he saves her, but then at a price. You know, he's made a huge tidal wave in the time stream, you know, and it's this sort of, it's still about making these hard choices, and And I don't know. I just feel like they've done a really good job of giving us more with this character who we've known for
More
so
Doctor,
long.
yeah. More range.
Yes.
Which is difficult to do when you have 50 years of continuity.
Right.
It's very difficult to do. So,
yeah.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So the episode starts in media res. It starts in the middle of action.
Yes.
And
we join this adventure already in progress.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back on the TARDIS, like what was going on with Clara? He says she spent too much time. He said working in the spider mines.
Maybe she was undercover. Who knows?
And then of course her floating in an asteroid belt makes me think like the planet blew up.
Right, and
I'm like, wait.
And he was under attack by all these other yeah.
That just seemed like a really fascinating story. That could have been a great episode, or at least 15 minutes of this episode.
Yeah, I really liked the beginning. I liked what they did with that. That it's just like something, and then that dialogue at the beginning is just great because it's like, there's something crawling up my back. Oh, that's just that's probably one of those things from the spider mines. Like, oh, well, what are those? It's fascinating to hear. Yeah, what are those? Yeah. I liked that scene at the beginning. I thought that was it got my attention right away. And then it was just funny. It was like, oh, it must have been this. Oh, and it's just sort of an adventure we weren't privy to, but we got to see the end of.
How cool would it have been though to see that? And then it's little things like that. This show, I think they did it more with David Tennant and Matt Smith. There were just little asides that you were like, oh, I really wanted to see what that was about. No, I really wanted to see what that was about, but you never do.
Yeah.
It all kind of, for me at least, it goes back to the Shakespeare episode when Queen Elizabeth shows up and off with his head. You're just like, that's a fascinating story. I can't wait to see that episode. And then Bob Blink when he's like, so there's a thing. Well, two things. Well, two things and a lizard.
Right.
And you're just like, why are you carrying a bow and arrow?
Yes, I want to know.
So there's that. I don't know. Like, there's just these constant references to things that would have happened. Sometimes I feel like it's such a great way of writing because it's funny and it's campy, but I kind of want to see those adventures. Like I want more Doctor Who. I guess really that's what it is. I just want more Doctor Who.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course.
But,
who doesn't?
But no, that's cool. I like that opening.
Yeah. This episode was written by Jamie Matheson, and I guess Stephen Moffat kind of helped him co-write it. But Jamie Matheson, if you guys remember last series, it was kind of his first series writing with last series. Mummy on the Orient Express and Flatline. I know two of my favorite episodes from last season.
Two of the best episodes from last
Mummy
season.
on the Orient Express being my favorite. Again, just knocked it out of the park. I mean, just a fantastic episode. And I really wish it was like, I really wish he wrote more for the show. I don't think I think even the next episode, I'm not sure it's him also. I think it's just like Moffat or something.
Well, and that's it's funny you say that because they're I don't know if they're struggling for writers, but it seems like they keep reusing a lot of the same people.
Right.
And a lot of times when you start doing that, you start losing some of the what's the word? You start losing some of the freshness.
Yeah.
That you can have with the show. Like maybe that's what happened with Moffat, is that he started feeling like, well, we got to do two-parters because I want the show to be more fresh, and I'm tired of the show feeling like the same thing. Well, if you hire the same people to write the show, and if you hire the same directors to direct the show, you're gonna get the same show.
Yeah.
Over and over again. Like you're not
Yeah.
You're not getting anything new. So you need new blood. Jamie Matheson is a breath of fresh air compared to everybody else who writes the show.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see him doing more episodes and more things, and hopefully down the line he does. But I also kind of worry that they're not bringing in enough fresh blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's a risk too. Sometimes it's hard to bring in somebody new and hope it works, and then rather than bringing in something that has worked before, and hopefully that. So I say more Jamie Matheson. That's my 2 cents on the matter.
Right.
So.
Well, and I do have to remind anyone who may or may not be listening, whose name rhymes with Breven Troffat, that sometimes the best writers you can find are ones who write podcasts. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge.
That is that's the through line for these Series 9 reviews.
For those who don't know, who listen to this and think we're just begging for a job, I've received several letters from the BBC now about ceasing and desisting because we write our own in-continuity stuff and just explain to us that we're not allowed to market it or make money. And I like to think that they're listening to this constantly to make sure we don't do something which violates some law somewhere. So and considering that we have had ideas in the last 3 or 4 years that slowly somehow show up in the show, like Sonic sunglasses. It's literally a line that we said like 2 years ago. So I'm really excited knowing that Steven listens to this, and so sometimes I think I should just talk to you, Steven. I understand you. I get you better than the rest of them around you. I know you and Mark Gatiss went to camp together when you were young and shared a bunk, and every now and then you have sleepovers in your pajamas and you like to play dress up or something. I don't know what you British people do, but I know you have a close relationship with this man.
They drink tea.
My point is,
they drink tea. That's what they do.
They drink tea. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm literally describing an American friendship, and that's British. We dress up and have sleepovers in pajamas, and we're in our 30s. My point is, I get you better than your BFF, Mark. So you can. It's not true. I'm just kidding.
Stay tuned for next week's review with special guest Stephen Moffat,
where he tells us all to screw off.
We have a caller.
Back on topic.
It's Stephen Stephen from London, England.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yes.
Oh. Yes. Good times. I just want to say, the next episode, The Woman Who Lived, is written by Catherine, I'm going to butcher her last name, Trigena?
Okay.
Trigena? But it is Trigana. But it is not Jamie Matheson. But I would like to point out that it is a female writer. We'll talk more about that next podcast. But it is a woman writing it, which is great.
Yeah.
Because there are so few who write Doctor Who. So.
Yeah.
But well done, Jamie, for
yes,
this. Seriously.
Well done. One thing I thought was interesting was the beginning of this, and again, I bring this up every podcast, but they keep shoving it in my face every episode. Is this idea of Clara's character development, and in this episode, especially in the beginning, there's the whole thing where she's more concerned about did they wrap up the adventure than the Doctor is. The Doctor's like, yeah, I sent them away, and she's like, well, they could come back, and he's like, yeah, but then they'll be prepared, and this whole thing. And then again later when he's like, all right, you guys need to just go hide for a day, and he's like, well, that's the best I can do, and she's like, no, you can do better than that. It's like she's becoming the Doctor, like we've talked about, but she's like, you know what, I'm gonna be a better Doctor than you.
Right. Well, and it's interesting, you're right, because she said it. What they said it in last season, where they asked, what does she do? She's my carer. She cares for me instead of me.
Yeah. And
it's just interesting that, very much so. That's a common theme now for Clara, that she's becoming more and more like the Doctor. Mm-hmm. It could mean so many things.
Yeah. Well, she even had
good for her.
Yeah, she even had her own little scene there when she was on the spaceship with a shielder. She was up there, and she was like, all right, time for me to take on the role of the Doctor, and you're my companion, come on up here, which was a great scene. And then again, that sort of foreshadowing, he's like, one of these times, I feel like it's going to be the time when something's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And oh God, is something going to happen? I have no doubt. I can't do it. I can't handle it.
She's gonna go fast, she's gonna go hard. And we will all cry.
Yes.
We will just cry. I will say we are getting the through lines for this season are what's gonna happen to Clara. She's just too invested. A big thing is, and it seems to be in each one of these, the Doctor violating huge laws of time. Right. First with Davros, there's no reason he should have. He runs away from Davros, and that's it, man. And then he goes back, and it's that's a huge breaking of the law of time. And then before the flood, he goes back to try to figure out where the words were written and becomes a part of events, the bootstrap paradox. Right. And this one, clearly, he
tried to break the rules, but then the TARDIS wouldn't let him.
Did.
Like it sent him back 30 minutes, and he was trapped. Like he couldn't break free from that, even though he tried.
Right. And then Ashildr, now in this one, where he brings her back to life and gives her immortality. I mean, we're looking at every one of these stories as how the Doctor has done something dramatic that sort of break. And if we all remember the last time he broke the laws of time to this degree, the last time he did something this, dare say, stupid, his prophecy of his death came true.
Yeah.
That was like that. Him running away from, and then saving who he could on the waters of Mars, trying to run away from the he will knock 4 times. Mm-hmm. That only brought it about. So, what sort of consequences will there be for a man now who makes these, this many changes to time?
Maybe the death of his companion,
or the immortality.
Yes.
I know I've had this theory now for a little bit that maybe Clara is granted immortality, but she's forever frozen somehow in a situation or scenario.
Oh, okay, save it.
Immortality where she's not. Huh?
Save it for the end.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
I like this theory you have. You told me earlier, so we'll save it for the end.
The other big theme that they've been really shoving down our face every episode is the idea of the hybrid.
Yes.
And they got to that pretty quickly in this one.
Yeah, it was...
with Doctor basically acknowledges he made a hybrid.
Yeah, and sort of that recognition on his face, like, oh, she's like a hybrid.
But this isn't the first time he's done that.
Yeah.
Donna, the Dr. Donna, was a hybrid,
Which I didn't think about that. Ironic that happened in that Davros episode. And then the next time we see Davros, he's talking about the hybrid. Yeah.
Maybe Davros is really onto something.
Maybe.
I would like to see a children's TV show where Davros teaches science to kids. But he always, he flies off the handle and starts talking about exterminating all the children.
Yes.
And preparing his master race of Daleks. It's the best idea for a show ever. It's Mr. Wizard.
Maybe a new segment on our show.
It's Mr. Davros. Mr. Davros. That's perfect. Ask Mr. Davros. Mr. Davros. Why do volcanoes erupt? Because in the darkness of time, that volcanoes are the hearts of the destruction of the earth. Release the Daleks! I don't know.
I think I have a vocal effect that just might work.
Please tell me you already applied it so that whole thing sounded perfect.
I could.
The hybrid.
Yes, the hybrid stuff. Yeah, and it was really interesting. And the end was kind of funny. The end made me laugh a little, where it was that whole shot of her and it turned around. It reminded me of the Highlander. There can only be one.
I did like that shot though. She was so angry when it got back around.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, what happened?
Yes. Well,
What happened to my beautiful baby Maisie?
what did that mean old man do to you?
What did the mean old doctor do to you? Did he make you immortal? Did he make you immortal?
Did everyone you love die?
Are you living forever and incapable of dying yourself? That's okay. Look at that smile. I just want to pinch your cheeks.
References. I love references. Oh my god, and continuity. It was so good. First of all, you had the yo-yo, which was great. We all love when the Doctor whips out the yo-yo. And I loved Clara's whole, like, no, it's the yo-yo, isn't it? He's like, yep. And then the 2,000-year diary. That was great. That made it.
And I like that he was flipping through it, reading about the mire. That was using the 2,000-year-old diary. It wasn't just a stand-in prop.
No, yeah. And then Speaking Baby, which is great. He was Speaking Baby. A little more serious this time, not as jokey as last time.
Right.
Which was kind of cool. And then he reversed the polarity of the neutron flow.
Well, now hold on. She asked him what he's doing, and he said he's reversing the polarity of the neutron flow. And she says, or no, then he immediately follows up with, or something like that. I don't know. It just sounds really good. Like, I think he's making it up as he goes along.
He could have been doing anything.
He wasn't. He literally was switching a switch. Like, so from now on, when people ask me, like, hey, would you turn on the light? Nope, but I'll reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. Like, I was a little upset that the dragon was a lie, like the cake.
Oh no.
I was really like hoping for dragon. Like I thought, and I had forgotten about the dragon until I was watching the episode and I saw it. I'm like, oh yeah, there was a dragon in this episode. Oh, it's just a trick.
Although I did love when they were like preparing and they're like, you know, a Shielder's monstrosity, and then they like pulled the curtain back and we didn't get to see what it was, but Clara then turns to the Doctor and says, oh, that is rubbish. And he's like, I know.
You can see the zipper on the suit. Last but not least, man, we found out about his face.
Yes. And, they didn't answer this in the episode, and they don't really have to, but I figured we could, figure something out, you and me. We have our minds, but our powers combined. So we get this whole thing of
planet?
I don't know. Heart. We 2 hearts. No, anyway, we
I really
we
think
get this
they missed out on a marketing tool. Captain Planet should have been made by eating Lucky Charms. Hearts, stars, clovers, horseshoes, and blue moons. I'm Captain Planet. He comes right out of your cereal. All right, continue.
Well, we get this great, and they've been teasing it for a while, and we thought maybe it would happen last series, and then it didn't. And so then we're getting it now. This whole idea of, they said, oh, we have this really great idea for why Capaldi's face, why does he look like the guy from Fires of Pompeii? They didn't have to mention it, but they're like, we have a great idea, so we are going to mention it.
Yeah.
And I really did like what they went with. I liked the idea, and I loved, the footage from Fires of Pompeii.
Yeah.
It was really great. A little Donna, a little Tennant in there. It's
you
really
love
good.
Continuity, yeah.
And I do. If there's one thing I love, it's continuity. But he figures this out. He says, "Oh, I know," and he cuts back to the very first episode of his. Why did I choose this face? What am I trying to tell myself? And it's to remind him that he saves people. He saved Caecilius, or however you say his name, Caecilius, or I can't remember say his name right. Capaldi's character in Fires of Pompeii. He saved him when he shouldn't have. It was one of those rules that he broke. And so, my question is, why now? Why does the Doctor need reminding now? I'm assuming that when he was Matt Smith and he was regenerating into his new face, that sort of 11 maybe had some say in that. Like, that the 11 part of him was like, all right, when I choose this next face, you know, subconsciously I need to, like, send a message to my future self to not forget to save people. Well, he just spent 1,000 years saving people on a planet. So my question is, like, why do we think that he needs reminding of this? Where have we sort of found that he's forgotten? Was he aware that maybe his new regeneration was kind of going to be a jerk and needed some reminding, or what?
One of the best theories I've heard on the Doctor's regenerations are that he always regenerates into what he needs for the time, and based on what he didn't have before. You know, we've talked about this. When he was Hartnell, he was traveling, you know, through time and space. He was an old man, and when he regenerates, he needed to be a younger man to be able to deal with the same kinds of enemies and sort of adventures. And then when the Time Lords force him to change, again, he's going to be trapped on Earth. He's not going to have the ability to, to travel through space and time. So he's going to need an action personality. He's going to need someone who's going to be respected, who's going to be able to be a scientist, but he's also going to have that sort of James Bond, because he knows he's going to have to rely on UNIT to also protect him, as well as he's protecting the Earth. And then when he regenerates from that, you know, he's ready to travel the world, the universe again through time and space. So he picks someone who's a little unassuming, someone who's kind of goofy, someone who people will underestimate, so he can get into places that he needs to be. But by the time he finishes off that regeneration, he feels old, he feels tired, so he needs to be young again. So he becomes this youthful, you know, he's got a big list of companions at that time in the TARDIS, so he's got all these people who rely on him. So he becomes someone who's younger, who can sort of wrangle and handle all the younger companions, so that then you get Davidson. When he regenerates from Davidson, he needs to be, you know, at that time he had faced so many of his former enemies who sort of assumed he was going to continue to be younger and kind of unassuming and fair hair and all this, and just easier to bowl over. So he had to become someone who was stubborn, who could face everything that he needed to and believe he was right. The ego had to be there. And so he becomes Colin Baker. And then when Colin Baker regenerates, he becomes sort of the mystic old mage. You know, he needs to be someone who can be secretive, because now he's decided to travel through time and space and start doing things that he shouldn't do. So, you know, all the regenerations sort of take from their time and place. You know, Eccleston, it didn't matter who he was. He had to be rough. He had to look goofy, but he had to look mean. He had to look very stripped down. And that's what Eccleston is. He's not a pretty face. You know, that's not someone, you know, he looks like he's mean all the time. And he needs to be standoffish, but then he meets Rose, and Rose makes him better, so he needs to be young and sexy, because he's a Lothario. He's in love with Rose, and he wants to be able to attract people to him now. He needs to start building a family, because he's lost everything else. When he becomes Matt Smith, he realizes that he wants to be even younger. He wants to be able to flirt with the universe and have the universe respond back to him. So maybe now he can live longer, because people respond better to that younger sort of goofiness. So all that's leading up to the end of Matt Smith. Matt Smith is an old man when he regenerates, and he has completely forgiven himself for the Time War. He has accepted his role as protector and defender of Trenzalore, and I think when he regenerates, he knew he wanted to be someone older, because he needed to be more of the older father figure again. He needed to be able to just move through the universe, do what he had to do, and command that sort of attention from people. You know, Capaldi walks into a room and he insults people, and they give him his respect, their respect. You know, it takes it takes an older man to do that, a wiser man, someone that people can instinctively go, but this guy knows what's up. So he needed an older face. Now, why specifically that face to tell him he needed to remember to save people? What did Matt Smith do for 1,000 years? He was trying to protect Gallifrey as well as Trenzalore, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was basically fighting everything there was, everything that ever faced him ever, to protect his people, and it didn't work. Because at the end of the day, the ultimate Hail Mary, he had to die in order to save his people. And he gets that final, he gets a whole new regeneration cycle. He didn't know that was coming. So now, he's at that point where it's like, he spent 1,000 years fighting the stuff that he hates. Once again, he's kind of bitter and jaded, isn't he? He had to die for his people again, and he hates that.
Yeah.
He didn't want that. He looks back on it now and says, man, I wish I hadn't spent that 1,000 years. I wish I could have been doing something else. This face is on him because he knew he was going, as an older man, he was going to be bitter again. He was going to be more like Hartnell, and he was not going to want to involve himself. He was going to want to just move along through his life and not really care what other people thought. And so the face is to remind him that, doesn't matter who you look like and who you are, you still have to save people. You're still the Doctor. To us, to the universe, to everyone. So that face was a reminder that no matter how old you get, you still have a responsibility. I think that's what they're trying to get at with it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Really
That's a great.
I'm sorry.
No, it was beautiful.
I have tears in my eyes.
Oh, dude, it's gonna take a second.
I can't see the script, but I definitely know it's there. Through your words.
No. Yes, no, and I really love that theory, that whole that and we have talked about it before, of the whole, like, he's given what he needs in his next regeneration based on, where he is at the end of his previous regeneration.
It's almost like forced evolution. He is adapting to his environment based on what his deficiencies were previously and what he expects he'll need going forward.
Yes. So I when they said, "Oh, we have this explanation of why he has the same face," I was like, "Oh boy, here we go. This is going to be ridiculous, or this is going to be goofy," and it turned out to be something really important and really
profound.
That is exactly the word I was looking for. Profound, for this character, and so I liked where they went with that.
Now, keep in mind too that this doesn't mean that that's the full explanation. This is him coming to realize that he's been asking himself, where is this face from? And now he just figured it out. That doesn't mean that he's had time to digest it. We have an episode coming up near the end of the season where it's literally just Capaldi. It is just him facing off against himself. And there are so many revelations that can come from that introspective look. So it's possible there's a lot more still to come.
Yeah. Well, and there was an interesting parallel with the whole thing about his face, and then also Maisie Williams' face. Because at the beginning, when they're walking into the village, he's like, I feel like I've seen her before. And I'm sure he has. Because she's immortal, he's probably met her before, somewhere in his time stream, or seen this person.
Yeah.
And like, that's my theory. And so I think that's sort of an interesting thought about, the faces that he sees in his life. And he even says to Clara, sometimes it's like, it's premonition. So it's kind of an interesting thought that he took this face from his past and he's using it to send himself a message. So
I remind people, yeah, it is. I remind people that Matt Smith made a big deal about Karen Gillan, about Amy Pond. So 11 made a big deal about Amy Pond, and that was the first face his face ever saw. And that was important to him near death, because it was a reminder of the kind of man he was. Capaldi asks himself in season 8, am I a good man? He asks Clara, am I a good man? He's trying to find himself. Well, why would a man who's 2,000 years old need to find himself? Because when you're that old and you're given an opportunity to survive after you die, maybe you have to ask those questions of yourself. You have to think, am I really at the end of my life, or is this just midlife? Is this my teenage years compared to where I'm going to be? And so he has to reevaluate his place, and the face he's given doesn't give him any clues. He knows that face is supposed to mean something, and he doesn't know where. So him asking him, Clara, am I a good man? And the whole season 8 with him getting to the idea that I'm just an idiot with a box, passing through, learning. That's him trying to come to terms with who he's become and who he might be in comparison to his whole existence. He thought he knew when he was ending his last regeneration, when he was in his last life, and he was facing off against things in Trenzalore. He thought he knew. But now that that's over and he has a brand new set of regenerations, he realizes he's not at the end of his life. He's barely even begun. He's in his 30s or his 40s,
Right.
So yeah. I think that's a huge piece, not just for Capaldi, but for the character. I'm beginning to understand more who this character is and how he's trying so hard to make himself into something new. He's becoming a hybrid. It's interesting.
So this episode had some really great quotes as well. Not just funny ones. I always love the funny ones, but some really good, serious, profound lines too. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to skip ahead to my absolute favorite from the entire episode. When he realizes, I am the doctor and I save people. And if anyone happens to be listening, if anyone has any kind of problem with that, to hell with you. And I think that's a great line. I think that's everything we literally just talked about. I think that is a perfect example of who the Doctor has become. Yeah. Tennant would never have dared face off against the laws of time. But Capaldi recognizes that he's broken them so often. That quote fits perfectly with the kind of man he is now.
I really enjoyed the beginning where the Vikings show up. And he's like, oh no, not Vikings. I can't do Vikings right now. Just the whole thought of something that he's encountered it before and he knows how this is going to go. And he's just like, oh God, I can't do Vikings right now. It's just not, I'm not in the mood for Vikings. Just that whole attitude that cracked me up at the beginning.
He had a lot of funny ones in this one. His serious ones in this one I thought were the best, though, honestly. We're time travelers. We walk softly. It's okay to make ripples, not tidal waves. And then later, of course, he refers to himself as the tidal wave.
Yeah.
Which is...
I like that.
A good parallel to the Daleks calling him the oncoming storm.
Yeah. That's true. I loved sort of all the nicknames he gave to all the Vikings in that one scene where he goes, you're Lofty, you're Heidi, and you're ZZ Top, and all those nicknames. Those are so good.
ZZ Top.
I love that whole scene. And then, of course, the Benny Hill theme part was one of my favorites.
Oh, it was genius.
When they added the Benny Hill theme to the video, that was just perfect. Nothing better than some yakety sax.
Let's see. I liked a good death is the best thing anyone can hope for. That was really
that's a good one. Yeah. I enjoyed when he was look at you, farmers, fishermen, web designers. Well, probably not that last one, but just web. It was just so random. I enjoyed it. Made me laugh.
Well, and that goes along with his inability to necessarily remember all the particulars of time and what happened when.
Right.
Definitely. I really loved when Clara says she just decided to stay. When she knows, she sees his face and she just knows that was the moment. And that goes back to he can't refuse. He can't say no to a child in trouble. Because the beast below, same thing. He tells Amy Pond, we just observe, we don't interfere. Well, that's not true. He interferes immediately.
Yeah. and constantly. My favorite line in this whole episode is during the training sequence. And he says, when I say move, you move. When I say jump, you say how high. Unless it's across a gap of some kind, which of course means you jump horizontally. I love, that's like the best variation on that line in any show I've ever heard. And it was so clever and it made me laugh so hard. I loved it.
I like that he had to correct himself in the middle of a motivational speech. That's
yes.
It's brilliant.
Well, final thoughts for me. This episode was awesome. I just, there's so many good things about it, and you know, we only touched on a few amazing things about this episode, but I really loved it. Maisie Williams was great. The whole reveal about Capaldi's face, I loved that too. And again, Jamie Matheson continues to just be awesome in his writing and in his contributions to Doctor Who. I hope there is more from him, and he has become a writer whose name I won't forget. Usually I don't even pay attention to who wrote the episode, but with Jamie Matheson, I'm like, oh, I know this is going to be good. I really enjoyed the music of this one too. It was sort of this Viking music, but there was kind of this sort of fast-paced beat behind it, but it gave it this different feel. I enjoyed that. It was sort of the mixture, kind of paralleled the bad guys, a mixture of Vikings and the sort of the technological, space age part of them. And then the acting of this season has been amazing. The raw emotion of all these characters, of Maisie Williams and the Doctor in this one, sort of just that whole scene after she dies was so good. And you know, Series 9 continues to be, so far, the best season yet. So I really hope this trend continues of how good these episodes have been. It is a good one, in my opinion. One of the good ones.
Yeah, indeed. This, my fair friends of the interwebs, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about good Doctor Who. Of course, the great debate over Maisie's character is over. She's someone new.
Yes.
And clearly pissed at living so long. I loved how this episode gave us a solid foundation for a story, and actually finished the story in one 45-minute bundle of time. I have railed against two-parters this season, but this is a good example of how to complete a story and then move on to the next one, even if it contains similar characters or continuity. Yes, it is a to be continued. However, that is only for the purpose of threading together a Shielder's character from point A to point B. New stories await us ahead. This was truly a wonderful tale with a Viking heart.
Calculating. Voices from the Vortex gives The Girl Who Died 8 out of 10.
And as always, we get the greatest thing in the world.
I mean, it comes after the credits, y'all.
Every time. It's a promo.
It's a promo.
Oh my god, that promo. Oh my god, that
promo. Oh my god, the promo.
Okay, can I just say this? Promo. Maisie Williams! Woo!
Yay!
Yay!
Oh, she's back. I missed her.
It's been so long.
I know.
I had forgotten her character even had a story arc. I had to go back and rewatch the old one.
It was like a whole 15 seconds of credits.
I mean, look, 7 days is a long time to wait for an old character to return. I easily waited that amount of time, to see Rose again. So clearly,
Yes.
I love the line, "It's kill or be killed." Yes, she's immortal. No, she's not the Doctor. She has a very different outlook on life.
Yeah, nor is she the same, exactly the same as when we left her. Her immortality has left an impression on her of something else, and she has become this, gone from this sweet little girl in a Viking village to a thief.
Yeah,
it looks like. So, one interesting thing about this promo, no Clara. I'm interested to see if this is just an episode that Clara is sitting out, and which I find very hard to believe.
Well, is she? Or could she have been there the whole time? Oh, conspiracy theorists are gonna go crazy.
She's the lion.
That's exactly what I was getting. She's the horse.
Yes.
Capaldi, no. No,
there's an episode. They've all been turned into animals, and it's like Homeward Bound.
That'll be in the same season as the musical.
Yes.
No, you're right. There was no Clara in this, and I didn't even recognize. I didn't even notice that there was no Clara in this. So I don't know what that says about Clara, or what
Maisie
I feel
Williams.
about her. But apparently, I did not miss her at all. But you're right. That's interesting. I'm very excited for this next episode. I really am. There's a lot going on. I can't wait to see how they thread it together. And I would love to see the second part with Maisie Williams. I want to see how Ashildur's character has changed.
Yes, I love the fact that this is it's to be continued, but we got a wrap up of the story before, and now we're getting this totally new story, just with a familiar character. It's almost like this episode could come in a later series. You know,
right?
It could come be next series or something, and we're like, hey, it's the return of Maisie Williams, but they're doing it. It's just the episode right after, so that's kind of neat.
So for some of my friends out there who absolutely love Jenny and are super pissed that Maisie Williams is getting a second episode right away, we still don't have a second Jenny episode. No, but I'm kidding. But it's true. It's very true.
It's very true.
Like, we got a second Davros before we got another Jenny. We got the Missy twice. We got Maisie Williams.
Yes,
back.
We got Missy twice in a row. This is very true.
You will see Cyberbrig on this show again before you see
Cyberbrig.
We're about to see Osgood, who's dead. Before we see Jenny again.
It's
really
tough to be a Jenny fan.
Well, hey, really good episode. Guys, thanks for joining us again this week.
Yes.
Cannot wait for tomorrow's episode. And listen, just remember, no matter what happens in life, as long as you've got that second immortality chip, immortality never has to mean everybody else dies.
Yep.
Good night, everybody.
We need to get some of those. This has been another Voices from the Vortex review, Series 9, starring Matthew Weiskamp as Matt, the Time Lord, Taylor Davidson as Taylor, the Time Lord, and Danielle Davidson as the sexy voice of the TARDIS. All views expressed are the opinions of the two dudes from Gallifrey, and as such, should be taken extremely seriously. Follow Voices from the Vortex on all social media, including Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. If you have any questions regarding the podcast, please email us at voicesfromthevortex@gmail.com. Doctor Who and all related materials is copyright BBC. No infringement of copyright is intended. All originally written material is fan fiction of a satirical nature. Please, Mr. Moffat, don't sue. See you next time in the Vortex!
Temporal flight engaged. Returning to the vortex. End of transmission.